13 October 2020. All commissioners are present. We'll start out with the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move right into item number 4, which is the citizen comment period. Do you have any citizen comments? We had no citizens who signed up for the citizen comment period, so we can move to business items. We'll start out with business item number A5A, which is the approval of the minutes. I trust that all my co-commissioners have had time to look at, peruse, edit, and comment on any things on the minutes. Anybody have any additions or edits? Move on. I'll entertain a motion then.
A motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes as written. All in favor, by show of hands?
Aye.
Aye. There we go. Business item 5B. I have a petition from Sean Willis on behalf of Vaquero Grande LLC for rezoning from a residence agricultural RA district to neighborhood service B1 district of a 4.23 acre tract of land lying in section 96, abstract 120 of the George M. Dolson Survey, Comal County, Texas, being all of a remaining portion of a 4.402 acre tract of land described to Vaquero Grande LLC, a Texas limited liability company, recorded in document 20190602840 of the official public records of Comal County, Texas. The property is further located on the east side of FM 2252 across from Hickory Bend in Garden Ridge. We're going to start out with a public hearing. We'll commence the public hearing at 6:03 p.m. I'd like to hear from Mr. Willis if he's available.
May I remove my mask or?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Evening, Dr. Miller and Commission. My name is Sean Willis. I'm with Axiom Architecture. I'm representing the owner of the property, Dean Sawyer. He's the owner of Vaquero Grande and the current owner of the property. We're proposing to change the zoning of the 4.23 acre tract on FM 2252 across from Hickory Bend Road. It's pretty much where they did all the clearing there on 2252 for that, where TxDOT turnaround is going to be. We're proposing to change the zoning from RA, residential agriculture, to B1 neighborhood services. Our current plan is to have a mixed-use development, some retail, some office buildings. We're planning on doing a phased approach. We're looking at approximately 7 buildings. We've got a conceptual site plan that we've included. We're looking at possibly 7 buildings totaling about 36,000 feet. The development will take place depending on what the market bears and what the need is in the market at this current point. So that's pretty much, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, I think. I'll answer any questions that you guys may have.
I will start on my left. Commissioners, I'm sure you have some questions about this proposed development. I'm sorry. We get to close the hearing, then go to discussion.
You opened the public hearing.
But the Planning and Zoning Commission cannot talk about the petition during the public hearing section.
Okay.
It's for comments either for or against the petition.
Do I have anybody in the audience who want to make comments about the petition by Mr. Willis? Then I close the meeting, and then we have discussion.
Yes.
Just for the record, I want to state that I have no written comments.
There are no written comments. Nobody in the audience wants to speak about the development. I will close the public hearing at 6:06 p.m. Now I'll ask for discussions from the commissioners and questions to Mr. Willis. Starting on my left, just to be starting somewhere, Mr. Dower.
I haven't had a chance yet to really look at it. I was looking at the documents today.
We can come back to you then, Dave, if you'd like.
Yeah, if we could.
Okay.
Don't mind.
Mr. Hire.
My apologies if I missed it, but I didn't see any indication in the materials we've been presented that talked about impermeable cover. Can you speak to that, Mr. Willis?
The plan we currently have will need to go under a variance for impervious cover. I think our calculations were looking at about 60% impervious cover is what our current site plan shows. We're basing that off of the hopes that the sewer system for the city does come in and that the new planning and zoning ordinances are set in that allow more impervious cover. As I mentioned earlier, this will be a phased approach. So we will be developing only a couple buildings at a time. So the first two phases will not affect the impervious cover requirements as the zoning is currently written.
So the first two buildings are going to have a septic system?
Well, it all depends on the timing with the city sewer system. They could, but we're hoping not to.
Nancy?
I'd like to add that this property is currently unplatted, so they will have to come in with a master plan and go through the platting process. If we are still under our current ordinance, when they get to that point, they will have to come in for a special use permit. And also for clarification purposes, the city we are in the process of negotiating a contract for the installation of a wastewater system in the city. The city has gone out for bids, and we are finalizing that process with the negotiation aspect of it at this time. So sewer will be coming in. Don't know it's going to be how many months, but it will be coming. So I'm sure by the time they were to finish their process with platting, master planning, more than likely we will have sewer in the ground, or it will be in very, very close future.
So just to be clear, since we have a detailed drawing here that shows buildings, our approval of this zoning request would not implicitly override any impervious cover requirements as they're currently written.
Correct. They still have to go through that platting process, master planning, and that's where they're going to have to come in for their variance request. What is before you tonight is strictly the change of zoning from residential agriculture to B1 neighborhood services.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no further questions.
And again, just to be clear, does Vaquero Grande currently own this property?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we don't have that issue. All right, so that's good. That was my question. Thank you.
Okay. On my right?
Well, you already answered two of my questions, Mr. Willis. The only one I had, you mentioned about that turnaround that TxDOT's going to have. How's it going to impact traffic in and out of this area?
I have no idea. We
It's
are
right on
just
there, right
very
in that
early in the
intersection.
process. I know our civil engineers reached out to TxDOT, and I know he's working with Nancy on a few things, but we don't know that answer yet.
You have to just work around it. You're probably just going to be able to turn left or right on there anyway.
That's all the questions I had. You get it confirmed everything else. Thank you.
Mr. Jockman?
My fellow commissioners have asked the questions I've had. I have no other questions.
The questions I had basically have been answered for the most part. When I looked at I guess this is a rough sketch then, because this sketch has openings both on 2252 and on Nacogdoches Loop, and we don't know if that's going to be the case. Okay, is that what you're saying?
It's a conceptual drawing, yes, sir.
Okay. The other thing was the impervious cover. I know you were involved in a project last year about this time, and we had a big brouhaha over impervious cover. So I'm assuming that you dotted all your i's and crossed your t's when you're planning, so we don't have to go through that again. I see parking spaces and that kind of thing, and we went through that last time. So I'm assuming you're on top of that. The impervious cover thing, I don't know if I heard you plan for 60% impervious or pervious cover on your lot.
Right now, it's impervious cover.
Impervious, so I think that's well within our guidelines. Is it, or is it above what we have right now?
It is currently above what we currently have in our current zoning ordinance.
Okay. That's all the questions I had, Mr. Willis.
I'd like to add that this is a end development plan. Like I said, it's a phased approach. So, we're not gonna build all these buildings. I don't think the real estate market bears enough to have 7 buildings at this point. So, like I said, we're planning on only doing a couple buildings on phase 1, and then we'll work through the process as the market needs.
Thank you, Mr. Willis. I don't think there's any more questions. I think I'm probably ready for a motion then.
Okay.
If somebody has some more discussion.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Sir?
I motion that we recommend to City Council to approve the petition by Sean Willis on behalf of Vaquero Grand LLC to rezone this property from RA to B1 as written in the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I have a vote? Say you aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Motion passes. We're going to recommend to the City Council approval for this petition for rezoning. Moving on with the agenda. Item 5C. 5C1. This is things that discussed at City Council meeting applicable to Planning and Zoning Commission. The main takeaway I had was, to sum it up, and I like to sum things up, is they want us to speed it up on the draft proposal. But we've heard that for the last 2 years. And we're doing, I think, all we can. We can discuss it further in the agenda when we get to the draft zoning ordinance. I don't think there were any other recommendations that came from City Council. Did I miss anything, City Administrator? Messages from City Council? Did I miss anything? Did I miss?
The rezoning request for the Winkler property as well as the Smith property.
The zoning request for the Winkler property was approved.
No,
No.
your recognition to deny,
Winkler property was we recommended that we deny that, and City Council approved of our denial.
correct.
The Smith property was approved with conditions. And that's what else I bring to City Council. What else does it?
That, I
2
believe.
commissioners were reappointed.
Oh, that's right.
Congratulations.
Some things, just to me, there's like,
And-
go through the motions. Go ahead.
just to add, the Smith property had the same stipulation that planning and
which, to refresh my memory, was a 30-day window. Approval by the city council.
meeting on October 7th, they have to show ownership of that property to me.
Okay. Moving on to 5C2, Ordinance 210. Discussion of Ordinance 210. That was pretty much covered in some of the requests from City Council. At this point in time, we're supposed to interview possible candidates for Planning Zoning Commission Place 7 vacancy we now have, which will expire on 30 September 2022. I believe we have one gentleman who had an interest in that position, Mr. Porter. Is Mr. Porter present? You come up and discuss your interest in the Planning and Zoning Commission, please.
I moved back to Texas in first of this year. I lived here 19 years, including in Bulverde for 10 years. Lived in Virginia for a few years in between, running a company there. I've been a planner for 45 years plus, doing planning work primarily for the federal government, for Department of Defense. A little bit different, but I was on the board of the P&Z board at Bulverde when they first started that city up back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I feel I have a lot of experience that would help serve me in serving this board. So I know that you asked for more detail on my resume. Unfortunately, in the move, I changed computers. I didn't transfer everything, and my resume was more for getting work with the federal government, not with interviewing for a job, which I haven't done since 1990, so here I am.
That's understandable. Commissioners, you have questions for Mr. Porter? We're going to start on the, let's start on the, I always start on my left, so we'll start on the right side. Mrs. Jocham, please.
Mr. Porter, thank you for submitting, and we really appreciate you coming in. The question I have you had a chance to review the City of Garden Ridge, their master land use plan that recently?
I have been in process of reviewing that, yes.
Oh, okay.
The
That's
last week or so.
something that we're, we've been in the process of rewriting our ordinances to implement that master plan.
Understand?
So, okay.
It's getting close to 5 years old, so time to do that.
Okay, good, good. I'll turn it over.
Well, I have quite a few questions here, but we can go back and forth to give everybody a chance to turn. So you listed all your projects. Could you describe, you said you did planning for government work, for government? What kind of planning, and give an example of what you might have done? Well,
it was a wide variety of things. In the military, they call it real property. Real property I assume everywhere is what is attached to the ground and built, what they invest money in. My company was kind of an expert on facilitating data, management of that data, collecting the data, going out doing surveys, and also doing long-range master planning, kind of like your long-range plan here is. I've done long-range plans for a variety of installations, and installations they're different from cities, but they're very similar to cities. I mean, they're a built environment, they got admin buildings, they've got housing, they've got all the support activities. And so I was involved in evaluating and planning for all of those variety of things.
That's what I kind of figured. I just needed examples, you know. I did a lot of researching for it, you know, after I saw your application. And that's when I kind of thought, but I just was curious.
It goes back a long way, but I came here to Texas back in '93 to do work at Fort Sam Houston. They did an installation-wide survey of all their facilities and requirements for those facilities, and I was involved in doing that. And I convinced my parent company that we needed an office here in San Antonio area to facilitate this work.
Okay.
So I eventually moved here and then stayed here through 2012 until I went back to Virginia, and then with retirement, we moved here because we have kids here.
Yeah, I saw that you became, I guess, president of the company when you moved back to Virginia at that point, right?
I became president.
Yeah, that's what I saw in your,
Yeah,
okay.
I was the director and office manager here
Yeah.
for our planning unit.
But you're retired since then, and so you're
I retired at the
available-
end of 18.
So you're available?
I'm here, as needed.
So you said you were on the Valverde Planning and Zoning.
I was on the original planning and zoning even before they connected all the cities. And I was on there for about 4 years.
Okay.
Through the early development of the city.
Did they have, are the ordinances already written, or were you part of that?
No, we had to write the ordinance. I was part of that. We read, reviewed, adopted other cities' ordinances for that, for zoning and all that. I was part of the primary mover on the zoning, original zoning, back in the early 90s, which I'm sure has changed a lot since then, but.
That could be very valuable in this commission. The other question I had that I think is ordinance 210. We talked about, you know, you mentioned ordinance 210 here. It's the ordinance that the city has on commissions, you know, and, you know, how the commissions are run, you know,
Yes.
length of term and all that. So I just want to highlight a couple of things. I don't know if have you had, probably not aware of that exists, do you?
I may have dealt with it, but I don't.
Yeah, so the commission meets twice a month, you know, attendance is expected, of course.
Excuse me,
Yeah, what, you want,
once a month.
once a month, yeah. That was, I said, okay.
I did read that. It said the
Yeah.
second Tuesday and the third
Second Tuesday
Thursday, and I
of the month.
thought, that's the same week usually,
Yeah,
so.
second Tuesday of the month, but I mean, so, there's a thing about absences, three absences in a row or 4 absences in a year. Is that a problem you think you'll have?
I'll be honest with you, when I was working, I had to resign from the Bulverde board because I was traveling a lot. And I missed so many meetings that I ended up resigning my
For
commission.
that reason.
Now that I'm retired, my intent was to travel. But with the virus out there, I am not traveling now.
Neither of us.
We plan on traveling once there's a cure, but I'm sure that I can avoid missing 2 or 3 in
It's
a
more
row.
vacation than business.
Well,
Yeah.
it's all vacation
Personal,
now.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to state up front that I put on my application is that my AICP was current. It is not. Once I retired, I let it lapse. So I don't want to make that a point of contention.
Yeah.
I've already reviewed. I can go back in if it's important to get the AICP again. It's a $20, $50, something like that fee, and then I take the courses and I'm back in, so.
I did the same thing with my professional engineer license.
If you let it
retired,
lapse, yeah. They don't like that, do they?
I just don't, I'm still active. I mean, I consider myself inactive. I just don't take the required
Well,
classes.
that's what to become an active AICP, which is
Yeah.
the professional planner,
Same thing, yeah.
I have to go back in and take some courses, and I can do that within a couple of months.
Yeah. I have more questions, but I'm gonna let the other commissioners go on. They may have.
Well, a couple of questions have already been answered. Thank you very much, and thank you for your interest in serving the city. Obviously, when you were on planning and zoning from Bulverde for those 4 years. That was interesting to you, or you liked volunteering in that capacity, I would imagine.
I did.
So
And I want
tell
to-
me why now you want to come back and do it again.
Well, I can go back and be selfish and say it gives me something to do, which it does, and I need something to do, but I feel that I have a lot of experience and knowledge that I can give back to my community. And I feel that that's rewarding in itself, is serving the community. And I want to do that, as long as it doesn't kill me.
Yeah, and so I think you've heard mention that we are in the process of rewriting a major ordinance for planning and zoning. And we've been in the process for about 2 years now, almost done. But the nice thing is, because so many things are changing, going forward, just having a little bit of experience really helps. And you could actually, look at the draft and hopefully catch some things, or that maybe, we haven't, before we send it to city council. Because once we finish, then it goes to city council for their review and approval or changes or what all. But I think you'd be in a good position to assist in that process. So we appreciate you stepping forward and as a candidate for our open position.
I'd like to think that I could do that. I mean, not just the 4 years a long time ago at Bulverde, but, and I'm not going to say that planning for a military installation is the same for a city.
Right.
And I understand that the homework and the administrative things that you have to do are a lot more intense here. In planning for the military, you had certain rules, but you had a client that you pleased, and it wasn't the city council, it was the engineer of that installation. And you had a little bit more freewheeling ability to do that, but we still had a lot of regulations that we had to apply. And in the real property arena, collecting the data and reporting the data, there was a tremendous amount of regulations attached to that. So I think the combination of the two would help me.
Well, one of the reasons it's taken us a little bit of time to do that draft is because we're trying to get it right going forward. We have history, we have the past ordinances, but things have changed, and we need to be looking forward, because going forward, with that ordinance, we don't want to have many variances or, need to approve or disapprove variances. So it's going to be key to look at it with, a fresh set of eyes, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, it has to be also a living document and ability to apply to enough things with a little bit of give here and there. But that's what, yes, you don't want to have to change it on a regular basis.
Thank you for volunteering. I just have one question about the AICP. Can you just tell us a little, I'm not familiar with the organization. Did you have a specific area of expertise that got you into that organization, or can you just, planning is pretty broad and can mean many things
Well,
to many different people.
It's, the military has moved in, the military services have moved into recognizing AICP as they would a PE or a AIA recently, well, within the last 20 years. But in qualifying for the AICP, you have to apply, and then you take an exam, kind of like you do for a PE. And I can tell you that the difference between planning for a military installation and taking that test was 180 degrees. So I did a lot of study. I understood a lot of the concepts to begin with, but it was more to do with how to do the planning work within a city government or a county government, which I was able to pick up on.
So more process-oriented, is that what you're saying?
It was more, yes, more knowledge-oriented. It wasn't oriented toward actually planning work. doing a city plan or a subdivision plan. That had very little to do with it. It had to do with dealing with the city council and how ethics is extremely important. Knowing what you can and can't be part of. If you're related to your cousin, who is the gentleman of the group that was here before, if you had some kind of relationship with them, you would have to recuse yourself. So that's all part of it.
Okay, thank you.
It's gonna be Dave.
Art, I came on about 2 years ago, I think, somewhere there, 2 years ago. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, a lot of one thing, your head on this desk up here doing things. The one place we made great strides, came through, you got city council saying, hurry up and do things. So it was quite a bit of dedication and stuff. And I'm saying that as somebody that's missed like the last month and surgeries and health issues. We had a big devastating blow to what we're doing with the Texas legislature that came back in and basically kicked the feet out from every municipality in the state about what control we had over building products and methodologies and those things. So one of the reasons we were rewriting that record was knowing what's in that new legislation and what's changed with that and what they took away from it. And then what language we can use, how we can go forward with that. So, kind of a suggestion, if you go back and kind of look at that last legislation, set up that they did in Texas, and it forced city attorney to kind of beat the death of the thing, as well as the council. But look at that. I think you would be a welcome and some wealth of knowledge to come in and do this thing. I came in kind of a historian, because my family's been there since 1852 in Gardner, so before it was ever
Wow.
this. So
That's amazing.
I found some other things out last month that I don't even know if I should disclose. One of those things. But I think you were a good fit in my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have dealt with the state of Texas, with the National Guard and folks like that too, so I understand how it's dealing with states. We had a few states as customers when I was running the company, and it's a different way of dealing with the world than it is dealing with a military installation.
Anything else, Dave? Well, I scribbled down some notes while my co-commissioners were asking questions. I'm a retired physician, and so I asked questions a little different than my co-commissioners sometimes.
If you don't mind, I'm going to sit down for a minute.
Sorry, go ahead.
My back is a little weary. I'm not walking.
I'm retired military, so I'm used to coming from an autocratic environment. And one of the biggest...
So is my wife.
That's good to know. One of the biggest changes I had to go was, working by committee as opposed to a more autocratic environment. Do you anticipate any problems making that adjustment? Because when you got things sent down to you, it was pretty much heading or pointing in one way, and here we on the commission may agree about something, then we get up to city council, and they may not like what we send them, and it may get kicked back. And what you saw tonight, to be truthful with you, to me was somewhat of an aberration for us to be able to approve a zoning request without a whole lot of brouhaha and going back and forth. I cannot believe it went so quickly, but that was not the norm. Most of the time we have variances and special use permits, and it just, it's been a quagmire to the developers, not to us, but it's been somewhat confusing to them what's written in the ordinance, and that's why we're trying to get it right the first time. I personally don't know if we're ever going to get it completely right, because things change so quickly, to be truthful with you. And even as we have gone through some of the interviews, we say, oh, we missed that, or we better relook this, or we relook that. And we've seen that in the last couple of months. Why'd you leave Bulverde? I mean, why didn't you go back to Bulverde? You were there, and you chose to come back to Texas, and you came back to Garden Ridge. I mean, we're pleased that you did. Why not go back to Bulverde, especially if you had something to do with the planning of Bulverde from its infancy, if you would? What do you know about Garden Ridge? What brought you to us?
Well, I probably don't really need this because I have always been able to project pretty well, but leaving Bulverde was a domestic situation. And I lived after that in Hollywood Park for over 6 years. And then the move to Virginia, Roanoke, Virginia, actually, was a promotion from being the director here to being the president of the company. My wife I met here. She was military, worked at Fort Sam Houston, and two kids are living in the San Antonio area. I have one daughter up in the Fort Worth area and one daughter in the South Florida area. And my wife had always dreamed of living in Garden Ridge forever. And when we started looking for homes, we looked all over, including Bulverde, but Garden Ridge is where she wanted to live. And that was where we found the house that we wanted, and so we moved back here at the first of the year.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
it was, I had no choice. This is where she wanted to be, but I wanted to be in Comal County. All right, after living in Bulverde, having lived in Garden Ridge or in Hollywood Park, I didn't want to move back as a retiree into a highly congested area. And I wanted to move back into an area that had the feel of really a rural community. And I know that that's what you guys, or at least that's what the plan says, and that's what I would be in favor of. It wasn't just the house, it was our yard. I built the house in Hollywood Park, but I had like 36 or 37 live oaks on a third of an acre. Well, on our 1 acre here, we have about 70 trees. And that's what my wife wanted, was a wooded lot in a community of this nature. And that's why we moved here. So we love it here.
Thank you for your description. You know, we do have some warts. Go ahead.
I'm not going to tell you about my warts.
One of them, depending on one's position or how they feel about things, are you familiar with the deer controversy we have in Garden Ridge?
Well, if you're familiar with what's going on in Hollywood Park, yes, I am very much aware. We had several hundred deer in the herd there, and there was those that wanted to shoot them all and those that wanted to preserve them all. So, yes, and we have deer in our yard all the time, so we're used to it. We know what you can plant and what you can't plant. Deer resistant is not deer resistant. They'll eat everything.
Have you been keeping up with our plans for expansion? You know, there's a cohort here in Garden Ridge that doesn't want to change anything. They want everything to stay the same, and we're trying to expand and build things that maintain the character of Garden Ridge, if you will. And we don't have a whole lot to work with. We got 2252. The rest of the city, to my knowledge, is 80 to 90% built out, and there's not a whole lot to work with. So anything we put on 2252 is going to be contentious to a subset of the city, no matter what we put there. Have you been keeping up with it? You've been here since January. Have you been keeping up with it at all? I know the virus has pretty much dominated the news locally and nationally. Do you know where we are with things, or what the plan is?
Yeah, if you know where I live off of 2252, so I'm aware of that. They're building a small office right at the corner there. I've read your plan, and it shows the expansion areas, and I understand that you have very limited potential there, but you do have expansion capabilities. I'm not going to say whether I'm in favor or not in favor of that expansion. I'd have to be made more aware of the consequences and the benefits of that expansion, but I think the plan's a pretty good plan. I think there are probably some things that need to be done with it, but yeah, I kind of agree with developing that into a commercial corridor. I mean, financially, it makes sense. You have to gather your income from somewhere, so, and I know that Garden Ridge has very little in their way of commercial property, especially compared to like Bulverde or even Hollywood Park, where they have their fronts on 281 and off of 10, or 1604, so. But yes, not totally aware of everything that's going on.
Okay. The things that are germane to that expansion on 2252, the two biggies, in my mind, you heard mention of to a little bit tonight, was the sewer project, and the other one's expansion of 2252 by TxDOT. That's been put off until, was it 2022 now, Mr. Kane? I believe it's 2022 now. The last thing I had to ask you, you've answered my questions quite capably, and I'm quite impressed, to be truthful with you. Last question I had, we have many volunteer opportunities here in Garden Ridge, and have you been discovered yet? You've been here since January, and although everybody's been kind of holed up since January, have you been discovered by any of the other volunteer organizations here in Garden Ridge or the area?
If I have, I don't know about it. I'll be honest, I did send a letter into, there was a name that, I can't remember the fellow's name, but I sent a letter in volunteering back in February to provide services, and I never heard anything back. So I kind of gave up until I read in your newsletter that you were still looking for volunteers for this board. So that's why I applied online this time.
Okay.
My wife was extremely active. She retired when we moved back to Roanoke, and she became very active in a lot of organizations to the point where she was busier than she was when she was working. So with the pandemic, we have kind of kept it low keel. So, but we would love to get involved into other things, not necessarily all volunteer, some fun things that we'd like to do, you know, like garden clubs or card playing, that kind of thing, yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. You've answered my question. Anybody on the commission have other questions? Mr. Porter?
I was just going to add one thing. You just want to confirm you were here since January. 'Cause one of the requirements is you have to be in the city 6 months before you can become on the commission, so.
Got that
you meant
checked.
that. So that's probably one reason that's,
Well, yeah, of course, I didn't know that at the time, so.
yes. So your timing is perfect, actually, right now. So, thank you.
Co-commissioners, I would entertain a recommendation, a motion, if you will, to take forward the city council.
I'll make a motion to recommend the city council to appoint Art Porter to the vacancy on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. By show of hands and ayes, how do commissioners feel?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Our recommendation to city council will be to accept Mr. Porter for the vacancy we have on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I believe it's place 7. Is it place 7? Place 7. Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I look forward to serving.
So you want to, so the plan is to go to city council at the next city council meeting, which is the first Wednesday of November? And at that point, then you can, you know,
I'll be notified.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, you'll be notified.
Well,
You're welcome to-
hopefully, I will see you next month then.
Hopefully, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is 5C22, 3. Speaking for myself, I would like to continue as the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission for another term. I'd like to hear from the vice chair what her plans would be. Was she interested in being, continuing as the vice chair? Or do we have to do these separately? Or we can do them together? Do them together.
I would welcome continuing on as vice chair.
Okay, now do we do this by consensus or we do a motion? A motion. Let's do a motion then can I have a motion, excuse me? Can I have a motion for recommendation of myself and Ms. Diaz to continue as the chair and vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we reappoint you, Chairman Miller, and Vice Chair Diaz as the chair and vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the next term.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to take forward the city council recommendation for myself and Ms. Diaz to continue as the chair and vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Oh, excuse me, this doesn't have to go to city council within, what's going? Just don't have to city council. Okay, it's internal.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
This one is,
it's internal. So we'll move on to 5C3, which is discussion of the draft zoning ordinance.
Do we have to vote?
I think we have to vote.
yeah, we didn't vote.
We have to vote.
I didn't vote for that? Okay.
No, we haven't voted yet, so.
We have
for
a
the chair.
motion and
For
a
the
second.
chair,
We
okay.
can have a
I had a
vote.
motion and a second, but we didn't vote within the committee to continue. Can I see a show by hands? It's
Aye.
unanimous. Aye. Okay, now let's move on to 5C3. Draft zoning ordinance. We're going to discuss and make possible recommendations related to the draft zoning ordinance. I don't know if the city attorney had anything to present or the city administrator had anything to present. Other than that, I made Nancy, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nancy.
That's okay. Just to update the commission, Marissa, our city secretary, is diligently working on putting all the changes into the document. She's found a few places that we're going to have to bring back to the commission to address. I believe she's found some words in the definition section that don't have definitions to them. There's a lot of different things in one area. It refers to one thing at one time, with one title, and then we go to another. So that she is working on trying to get that completed so we can get it to the commission as soon as possible. I do have one other item that I discovered week before last that I want to bring forward to the commission that we need to think about and address. As you know, in Forest Waters, which is a single-family residential area, there is an area that we currently call Country Club District. That is where the club at Garden Ridge is located. In talking to the owner of that property, I discovered that in the master land use plan, it is not identified as, a country club district, and on the master land use plan map, it shows it as residential. The property owner inquired about allowing offices to open in that facility. And I explained that our current zoning ordinance does not allow for that use in the country club district. And then looking through our chart of all the allowable uses, of course, that is not addressed for that particular area. So I wanted to bring that forward to the commission, so perhaps we can have some discussion and get some guidance on how we want to address that situation. It would, if we choose to keep that location specified as a country club district or whatever we may desire to call it, we are probably going to have to go back and amend that master land use map to show that district or to show that particular area.
So the master land use plan shows it as parks and open space. That's what I see.
Okay, parks and open space, okay.
Yeah, parks and open space. So I guess it's the lake and then that part. It's all the same color.
But do we want to I mean, that really doesn't fall as a parks and open space because it is a privately owned business.
But in the current map, it is country club, so.
Just going forward, I know we can't discuss it now, so it's obviously an appropriate future agenda
Yeah.
item.
What's part of the ordinance, right? Or not? Or-
It's not part of the new ordinance.
Right.
It is in the current ordinance, but I wanted to let you know of something that was recently discovered that I think the commission needs to address in the new ordinance.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So I guess what I'm hearing then is that we've got a heads up for something to put on the agenda to discuss next month. And gives us all time to go back and look at the master land use plan and review it and think about any changes we may need to make in that map and in the ordinance itself to relate to that country club designation and whether or not I guess you're saying it's not even on there, it's not even designated as a country club?
No.
What's called on the new ordinance and what we're going to do in a new ordinance with it. So that'll be on the agenda for next month. Marissa, is there anything else you discovered as you start going through that document? I know there's other things, there's got to be other things in there.
I don't think there's anything else that's really that big that stands out. A lot of it was spelling errors, editing, grammar, spacing. I mean, the font was so small, I made it bigger, and so it's basically just been a time-consuming thing, but I did find some places it would refer to something as, comprehensive plan. Is it talking about the comprehensive plan, or is it talking about the master land use plan? So it's not as easy for all of those type things. It's not as easy as just typing in a search and replacing with a word, because some of those actually do need to stay what they are. Yeah, there's some definitions that the word is there, but there's no definition. And then throughout the ordinance, it refers to other sections. When it's in one section, it says refer to section 2.06.01. Well, some of those have changed since initially writing them, so I've been going back and making sure those all match with what they're supposed to match. I'm very close to being done with it, but I feel like every time I look at it, I find new things on pages that I thought I was done with, so guess we'll see. But as soon as I am done with it, I believe it's going to the technical committee,
Yes.
so hopefully the technical committee will be getting that soon.
That kind of brings up something that I said at the city council meeting, which was not very well received, and I probably should have tempered the way I presented it, but there was quite a bit of angst to the way I presented it, and I'd like to present it to you guys and see how far off base I was with your understanding of the cascade of things that has to happen going forward. I thought that once we get the document from Ms. Spencer, it goes to the technical committee. She just said that pretty much right now. So I know I got that part right. Okay, it comes back to the technical committee. Basically, the rest of you on the commission have not even seen the document. It's just something that's out there in the atmosphere, floating around, and the technical committee has looked at it, and we've worked on it for the last 2.5 years or whatever. And you guys are eagerly waiting what we've done so you can see where we are.
They've seen it.
From there, from the technical committee, it goes to you guys to see, goes to planning and zoning, you guys to see it, okay? And then.
Chair Miller.
Go ahead.
If I might, the commission actually has seen it. They just haven't seen.
The rewrite.
The technical committee's review the last time, because we actually have 2 iterations that the commission has seen. And so what the technical committee was doing was kind of trying to then, take all the comments and all the last 2 rewrites
Okay.
from the commission. So they have seen it.
Okay.
So it's not going to be a big surprise.
Okay.
But, yeah, I know where you're headed with this.
It's
that-
been so long that I'm forgetting the cascade myself. That's why I had to write it down and see where we are with
Yeah.
things. And then there's a public hearing, I think, after we all get it and say it's good. Is that right?
Yes. After the commission says, we're good with this, then we need to conduct a public hearing for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that public hearing will generate a recommendation to City Council on the document.
Okay.
Or it could go back to you for,
More stuff, okay.
What's the process to get the public hearing set up? I mean, for the citizens to be able to come to a public hearing and talk about it, what are they going to be able to see beforehand? Or what's
see,
the-
that's something we need to coordinate. We need to
Develop a plan, is what you're saying?
come up with a plan for that, because all we technically need to do is give them 15 days public notice about a public hearing, but a document that voluminous as well as that important really needs to give them a little bit of time to
Yeah.
review it, understand it, and then conduct a public hearing. That is just my recommendation.
Either a summary, like a presentation, a PowerPoint, or something like that, somehow to give an overview of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm thinking.
At least at the public hearing, at the beginning of the public hearing, I would think that would be most appropriate.
Yeah, something like that. We just can't throw a document out and.
Right.
Just, I don't think.
And
it's
we
fair.
know who does good PowerPoints.
Just as I'm working on one right now, is that what you're saying?
Then after the public hearing, we kind of like coordinate with the strategic committee to see how to present them, or should that be a function of the strategic committee to figure out how we present it to the public as well as the city council?
That's not a bad idea, really.
Well,
Mr.
the
Hire?
strategic committee is made up of 2 city council members. I don't think we could decide
Yeah,
what they're
right,
going to do
yeah.
or not.
Okay.
They're really in charge of it. 2 of us are on their committee, and I wouldn't presume to tell them how to do their business.
Right.
Good point. So we'll take that document after the public hearing then, and, or in coordination with the strategic committee, figure out how we're gonna present it to city council. Should we give them a copy, like we had a copy, to peruse for a month?
If I could, I would just suggest that we tell the city council we're done with it, and they'll do what they want to do with it. And they have a strategic committee who's supposed to review it, but that's up to them.
And the strategic committee you're speaking of includes 2 members from our committee, our commission,
Correct.
excuse me.
Right, myself and Commissioner Dower.
And then from there, it's presented to the public once again, or do we have another public hearing after the city council says?
When city council gets your recommendation, they will have to have a public hearing on, based on your recommendation.
And then we'll be through with it.
You hope?
Make it sound so simple.
Most likely, yes.
Well, we've missed, when's the next legislative?
Right around the corner.
Well, we're not gonna make that one. We're not gonna make that one. So we're at the mercy of the next legislative session anyway. Maybe we can point towards next year's legislative session and say, we could try to get it done by then, so we can't change again.
I would like to get it done before my term expires in September.
I understand.
The next year, huh?
That, however, is the cascade events that I presented, or something like that, I presented to city council, and there was quite a bit of angst. And, you know, they were throwing darts at me with their eyes, and I said, well, it's not my fault it's taking so long, but this is the way I see it, and I wanted to make sure I was in the right track with the cascade of events. So I wasn't too far off. So even when we get through with the writing and rewritings and stuff like that, there's still going to be quite a bit of steps to go through to get this thing off of our desk, so to speak, and before the public, and say, okay, the next set of people that want to develop along 2252 or anywhere in the city, this is what we're going to go by. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it depends on the corona more than any damn thing else, to be truthful with you, because that's put a kink in everything. In my mind, I'm thinking, you know, at least 2 or 3 more. Well, it seems to be more than that. I'm thinking June. I'm thinking June. And the reason I say that is because we have to have our meetings, and it's it's another month before the city council gets it, et cetera, et cetera. I haven't even looked at it and lined it with the cascade. This is just a gut feeling. I'm saying, okay, if we do everything right, Marissa does everything, you know, the weather's nice, the moon lines up and everything else, and she gets it done, and we finally find all the mistakes we made in it. You know, June is probably a good goal. And somebody stop me if I'm lying.
You're probably gonna line up with text stop. They're not gonna roll out in 2022, they're gonna have changes, we're gonna have to make changes based on what text stop does. So we're gonna have a base program we take forward, but text stop and shape us by that time. The adjustment, hopefully get the sewer system in. They can't move forward with the sewer system until they figure out what text stops do.
No, we aren't waiting for TxDOT on the sewer.
Hopefully we're clear enough from them that they don't want to do what we just did.
Right. And I don't believe TxDOT is going to delay the zoning ordinance coming forward. I really don't see any impact that should have on the ordinance.
Hopefully we can get it done, get that in place.
Do our two members of the strategic committee have any questions for the commission in general? Or the city attorney while she's here, or the city administrator while they're here? And how can we facilitate, how can we help you get in touch with city council or whatever, so you guys are just, standing at the gate waiting, so they can't say, yeah, we're waiting on the planning and zoning or the strategic committee?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I remember last meeting, I said I had contacted one of the members of the city council who was on the strategic committee, and heard a lot of crickets when I contacted him. So I don't think it's our job to tell the city council what to do. They appointed the strategic committee, if I'm correct in that. It's, the ball's in their court, in my opinion.
I take that under advisement, and I'm going to coordinate that with my Planning and Zoning Commission rolling attendance for city council meetings. And what I'd like, if I take that forward and present it as like that, I would like those of us who have not attended enough city council meetings to all be in attendance so they can back me up when I tell them it's going to be June and why it's going to be June, and it's not all on the city.
Why would you even throw a date out there?
Why, oh, you don't want to antagonize?
No.
You don't want to antagonize?
No,
Okay.
because once we get to the point, the technical committee of then reviewing the last go round, and I know there's some changes we need to make based on the garden home thing. We need to go back and relook at that. So, I wouldn't give them a date at this point.
What we're doing in the next month, is all we should be talking about.
Right.
And just leave it short.
And if I could, did it go on? Just push that button.
There we go. And I would also kind of just take us back a little bit. When we first collectively as the group had discussed the issues with having the technical committee and the strategic committee, the entire role of the strategic committee was to make determinations if there was anything that could be done to help kind of push the technical portion along and push it forward and kind of get that plan for that rollout. And so at this particular point in time, we have determined more or less what types of notices will have to go out. We have determined we're going to require at least 2 public hearings, one before P&Z, one before City Council. We may have, one other. But that was the whole and sole purpose of the strategic committee, was to start thinking about what's that layout or what's that rollout going to look like. And so to the extent that P&Z gets to the point that we think we have that project ready to go, there isn't any real function of the strategic committee other than to kind of target the dates. Here's when would be a good plan for either a joint meeting or open house, kind of open workshops types of sessions to get this and roll it out to the public and that sort of thing. So I think while it's good that we remain cognizant of the fact that there is a strategic committee, there isn't a specific role that this strategic committee has to play in getting, this rollout done. And so at this point, Dr. Miller, I think your plan and your focus and your thought about let's focus on getting this forward so that we can push it forward is the absolute right focus. And then at that particular point in time saying, hey, here are the dates, strategic committee, that we say would be good dates for joint session, public hearing, or, kind of workshop or kind of open house type of setting for that, for additional review, and then moving it forward.
Sounds good. I'll take that under advisement. I think the commission will take it under advisement as well. So I can get up and say, we're waiting on Marissa. I wouldn't do that to you, Marissa. I guess I'll just have to take, be in line of fire for another month. I mean, I've done it for 2 years, so it's no big thing. Any other discussion about the draft zoning ordinance this time? We can move to next item on the agenda, 5D, future agenda items. The one we talked about already was to talk about the amending of the master use plan. What was the other one, Dave? We were gonna put on there, we're gonna talk about the amendment, the country club. That's why I get that written in what's called. Okay, that was it. That was the master use thing. Anything else we need to put on the agenda that needs to be discussed?
I have a couple of things, but they don't have to be on the next month. They could be on future items. But one thing I've seen that Shirts has a kind of a what we're doing type thing. What's in the works? What's under construction on the website? I think we ought to have a discussion about maybe having a website that has new what's coming up. What construction. So I'd like to have a item on. It can be next month or future down the road. It doesn't have to be next month, but just somewhere down the line, maybe talk about adding a. Something like that. I can bring examples next time.
I'm not sure I'm clear.
Yeah, I can't read my writings. They have Shirts has a map, interactive map that shows what the activity. So if you go to a link, it shows you here's a construction, we're building a stop and go or whatever.
Okay.
So as we start building out 2252, people will be asking questions. What's going on here? What's going on there?
Okay.
They can go to a web link and maybe see what's going on. I know in the city council meeting, we have a one-page type thing that has all the house permits that's under construction and other permits, but just the major items could be on a website just to show, here we got this office building coming up or this retail store coming up or something. It's not necessarily, something that we need to be doing now, but I mean something that I think will be good for future.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Valdez?
No.
Anybody else have anything else that's pressing to be on the agenda? Well then, this time I'll announce the date and time for the next meeting, which is on November the 10th, 2020. At 6 o'clock here at City Hall. And remind you that as chair, I can add things to the agenda almost up to the last minute. So if anything comes to mind, run it past me. And we can probably get it on there if it's pertinent to the commission. This time we'll go to the citizen comment period, second citizen comment period. And we have anybody signed up for the second citizen comment period? Citizen. Citizen. For the second citizen comment, we have no comments on the second citizen comment period. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment then.
I move that we adjourn the P&Z meeting for October 13th at this time.
Looking for a second? Second. I have a motion and a second for adjournment at 7:14. All in favor? Aye. Commission is adjourned.